Garnsdorf near Chemnitz in Germany. Old houses in need of structural renovation make up part of the landscape in most villages. Ingo Seifert owns such a house and wants to save it from being torn down. We bought the house 11 years ago when it was ready for the wrecking ball. We wanted to renovate it bit by bit, maybe make something out of it, maybe something for the kids or a rental property. Ingo Seifert himself is a gifted craftsman. The roof of the house was in good shape, but the penetrating moisture from downstairs confronted him with a seemingly unsolvable problem. There were black spots, mold and mildew everywhere. With such a monumental drying and drainage job, this craftsman was at a loss. The problem with the house was this. It was completely wet, up to 1.6 meters high in places. You could say that the water flowed from the hills and through the house, absolutely soaking wet. His house never had any linings, or any water barriers at all. Moisture and salt had been creeping up through the walls for more than 78 years, up to the ceiling on the ground floor. But how dry can you get such a house after so long? And what is to become of the cellar? Should it be filled in, covered with concrete? Do drying and drainage still make sense? Or is it better to just tear it down? If I were to get the walls cut into now and have some sort of waterproofing put in, I would still have wet and moist walls for years. It would take, from what I know about brickwork, a year per 2 centimeters of wall height to dry out. At that rate, the wet walls would outlive all of us. To cut into the walls and put a barrier in is possibly far too expensive. He finally found help just around the corner, in Denne Viser, with Frank Lindner and the company Drymat. Their solution, draining by means of electrophoresis. Drymat's principle: water is led from the walls to the ground via an electrophysical technique. Mr. Seifert called us after he had given up on DIY drainage fixes and asked doubtfully, "How does Drymat work then?" In such cases, we work with wall surface anodes. These anodes create a positive charge in the wall. The advantage is that both salt and water are let out of the stone or brickwork. Salt and moisture together in walls cause hygroscopic moisture, because salt itself attracts, and will always attract, water from the air. For that reason, the salt has to be removed from the walls as well, in order to get them as dry as possible. The walls in the basement were, in some places, moist and wet up to 2 meters high. It was still damp and moldy a year ago. After an extensive survey of the damage and a consultation, Mr. Seifert gave the okay and the system was installed. The house was to be saved after all. I've had the system in here for over a year now, and you can see how dry the walls have become. The way the water is coming out, the moisture level is just falling and falling. You can also see, by using a moisture detector, how quickly the moisture level is decreasing and how the bricks are drying out. The positively charged anodes have been hidden in the walls, all over the cellar, and are invisible in the stonework. Our anodes are behind the mortar and the brickwork and cause the positive charge in the walls. They then continually dry out from top to bottom. And here you can see how the walls were still wet a year ago. This last row of bricks will dry out as well. Even the moisture under the foundation stones and the immediate area will be reduced. The horizontal separation is above the negative terminals. That means that these bricks, which are still wet, will dry out and give the wall a uniform look, as you can see here. A damp house is a very unhealthy place. It can't be inhabited or rented. Ingo Seifert is amazed at the fast and wonderful results. It used to be that when you came into the cellar, you were greeted with a strange, moldy smell. That is gone now. The way the walls are drying out, that damp smell is gone, and the whole atmosphere is just great. Drymat is an East German company based in Saxony. Ingo Seifert has therefore got a contact person within a stone's throw for any and all of his questions. And The system is real value for money. Another advantage of Drymat's electrophysical technique is having access under the house. The cathodes, or negative terminals, are under the building. That means that the horizontal separation is also under the house. So the logical advantage is that the ground will get drier, and stagnant water and wet feet will be a thing of the past. After the initial active drying phase, a small amount of current prevents the water from rising. It simply doesn't allow the moisture to work its way up again. That's why this technique is called an active barrier. The system works as an active barrier, and as long as it's in service, the house will be protected against dampness and moisture in the future. Therefore, the system remains in the cellar permanently. This active technique is scientifically recognized by the Austrian standard 3355-2, assuring user safety for the customer. We are really thrilled that everything has worked out so well, and I think that in a couple of years the cellar will be so dry that we can finish the space. Maybe put in an office or something like that. I can only say that this system really, really works. I'd happily recommend it to anyone. Just superb.
Super.
So Ingo Seifert's house could be saved after all. Soon, this craftsman will be busy with the interior work in his basement. A little piece of history in Garnsdorf shall remain, thanks to Drymat's efficient and cost-effective solution.